everybody, it's Robbie from Southern California, and today I am on my deck. A lot of people have asked what's going on with the deck. Is it still growing? Are you working? Are you still doing things on the deck? You know what? It's been rainy and cold, so to be honest, I haven't really done anything with the deck. I'm thinking, but I haven't done a whole lot with the deck. So I'm going to give you a 5-minute tour, I hope, of what I have been doing and what I plan on doing with the deck, because I love my deck. I'm not going to get rid of it. A lot of people thought, well, you don't need it. You've got your gardens. You know, there's nothing nicer than last minute to run out and get all the food you need. And I grow a lot of herbs, vegetables, different things. But I did a lot of things on the deck that I was not happy with. And I figured there were things I could have done to improve it, to do better. And in some instances, I feel I was fighting Mother Nature. I don't want to fight with Mother Nature. I want to work with Mother Nature. I want to make it where it works right for my plants. So let's do a quick tour. I'll show you what's left with all the freezing weather. We've been like at 30 and 35 in the morning. And then we've got a nice warm day today. And then tomorrow it could be cold and rainy again. That's the way it's been this year. It's been very different. So let's do a spin around the deck, see what's going on. I haven't really done anything like pulling anything out, but I am analyzing on what's going to be better and easier to do. So let's go take a look and see what is going on my deck. Container gardening is what it is. So there's the deck, pretty much untouched for the past few months since winter kicked in. Plants are still alive. I haven't pulled anything out, but I am starting to go through dead plants. I've got this going, but here's the problem with this, and this isn't really just for the deck. This is walking onions, but there are so many of them in there that they're root bound. So I've got to get them out, but they're still alive. You can see the green. And then, of course, these are the leeks that I planted. They were overplanted. Again, root bound. I just don't know where to put them. Gary took part of them, about maybe a quarter of them, and he planted them in his garden. So I've got to work with that. Our weather's just been so cold that I really didn't think about what I'm going to plant yet. And so I'm not really in the planting mode yet, but I'm getting there. Everything on the bottom is still growing. Isn't that amazing? I've got my onions growing. These are, oh my goodness, it's flowering. I didn't see that yesterday. It must have just started to flower, and there's more down there. These are blueberries, and I've got a new home for them. They're going in my front garden, and I got to get that planted hopefully this week. But a lot of this is all going to be redone. These upside down planters, I know so many of you come in and say, where'd you get them? Here's the problem. They don't make them anymore, and they're not worth it. When they sold them in the store, I saw them for as much as $66. And then I've seen them online for over $100. They're only about 5 inches deep. Yes, you can grow in 5 inches deep. You saw I did that with zucchini. But here's the thing. For $100, I'm telling you, they're not worth it. You'd be better off to get a nice chair, find it in the trash, go to the Goodwill or Salvation Army or any thrift store, buy a chair and get a container, a regular container like I garden with, these containers, and you will have the best planter that you can buy. As far as upside down, yes, people were growing their tomatoes upside down. I was never a fan of that, so I never used them that way. So that's why a lot of times I add in another container to give some more soil in there and give it some height and get more things growing. I only have them, and I've told the story because Walmart got them in and had them and wanted them out. And I think they had them marked for $5, and my daughter called me and said they marked them half price. They were like $2.50. Went down there and we bought them all. Yep, that's them. Went in there and we thought, well, $2.50, I'll invest that. My daughter took some and my friend took some. My friend couldn't stand them. He gave me his. And my daughter didn't want hers and she gave me hers. So I ended up with the ones that they bought, and then I've got all these here. So that's why I've got them, and that's the only reason I have them. I am not a fan of them. I really prefer to go ahead and do it on a chair and use a regular container that you can get for $4 or $5 at the hardware store. So let's do kind of a zip around here, what's going on. This is where I grew all my tomatoes, and as you can see, it's not time for them to grow, really. Not not really, but they're drying up. Some of them, I haven't picked them. And a few of them have fallen. And here are some tomatoes, volunteers that are coming up. So they're just starting. Even though we're in February and we're not in spring yet, some are starting, but then they freeze when they get really cold. I haven't pulled them down yet, but I will be composting all the stems from the tomatoes. Let's see, and then we've got the kale. I think I'm going to yank some of these out. Now this one looks so nice that I may leave this one. This tomato, of course, I am going to leave. This is actually a cutting, and this is a midnight snack. Here is the tomatoes growing. And what I did was, I took a cutting and I lifted up the pot and I put the stem under there and stuck it out, and it grew beautiful. So that I'm going to leave. So a lot of this I will be leaving, and I will be adding more kitchen scraps and leaves and things to the containers, but I am going to leave all of these. What I am going to probably remove, let's walk over here, is the plank. See this plank? Kind of a bed rail, and Gary had picked it up in the trash, and I thought, oh, this will be really cool. I'll put a lot of containers on the top, and so when I water the containers, they will water the containers underneath. So these small containers will water the ones underneath. But here's the thing. Those containers, as they stand on that plank all the way across, that's actually fighting the way nature would do it. It's not really doing a full job like I want it to do. It's not doing really much of anything. I've got my tri-colored sage, which is doing good, and little lettuce and different things are coming up. But the point is, it sits on top. So yes, I've got to keep it watered, which is no problem. And yes, let's step over here. It is doing what I wanted it to do, which is it is watering the containers underneath. But if you look inside the containers, see back there? Now this one is a compost container. That I'm going to keep. But even back there, the only things that grew were some mint grew back there. Nothing grew back there. And then the same thing here. I just put my thyme here. Nothing really grew back there. So what I've done is I've lifted those containers and put them on a plank. And yes, they water and water all the containers in the front, but they're losing out. If I would have those containers sitting inside the containers like I do in my garden, which is true layering, because this isn't layering, this is shelving, then any microbes or worms that are in the bigger containers can gravitate and go back and forth into the smaller containers. If nothing's growing there anyways, I might as well do that. On top of that, watering will be better. When I water this container, instead of this container running into here and then this one drying out, this container would be sitting on the soil down there, which will create a mulch cover, and underneath this container on the soil, it will stay damp. Because what you're doing is you're sitting down like here, like sitting this pot in here, it's always going to be damp under there. It's hard to pull up because there's roots all through there. So I would be better off to get rid of that plank that I put back there and get all those containers sat inside, and that's what I plan on doing. So was it a mistake? I could call it a mistake, but you know what? I wouldn't have known until I did it and then stood back and analyzed that all I was doing was creating a container on the top to dry out. It will not dry out as fast if it was sitting on soil, because it would draw back and forth from itself, and then the pots on the bottom, I shouldn't say pots, the containers on the bottom would have the benefit of staying damp as well with the other container on the top. You'll see as I go along. So that's what I'm going to do there. And that's a change I plan on doing. And then I will pick and choose. I'm not going to just keep plants because I like them. Even though the zucchini plant is doing really good, and you can see, I'll step over here and you'll see all the new zucchinis growing on it. This is, last year's plant technically. So what I'm going to do is compost all that. I never even brought this one in because I didn't need it. We have so much from our garden, so I left it hanging in case of an emergency. Let's say it was pouring and I didn't want to go out. I know I can just run over here and just grab it. So I'm going to really compost what I don't want. and I'm not going to overplant. I think I put too many plants in some of these containers thinking, well, maybe they won't all grow. Well, they did, but you don't need that many. So I'm going to concentrate in maybe like one plant per container on the small containers on the top, and then 1 or 2 plants inside the larger containers. If I'm going to do, let's say, kale, I'll concentrate on kale and maybe some parsley with it. So I'm going to change those things up. As far as the water running out and me collecting the water, which I've done, that works out really good because since I compost in place in those containers, any water that's coming out of these containers is like a compost tea. So that you don't want to throw away. So that's going to stay the same. Let's see, all in all, what else is going on? I want to keep this short because I haven't really done anything. I've got millet growing from the birds. See the millet? And I tied it up. I'm going to go hang this in the garden so the goldfinches can chew on the millet. So that's going on. Otherwise, there's really nothing. Oh, that's another video. We're going to talk about that. And that's it. So we're going to start tearing some of this apart. I do like the bottoms this way. I don't have a choice on the bottoms, but I could put a smaller pot on the top. Not this. This I just sat here. But see, put another pot in there and layer that a little bit better. So maybe get some smaller pots to sit on top. All in all, that did really well because it runs down from these. Like I said, I would not have gone out of my way to ever buy these. See the millet growing from the birdseed? This is all basically weeds. But this tomato plant just kept on going as that wall is warm. So that's what's going on the deck, just analyzing. And I am thinking about what I am going to do here and what I'm not going to do here. But I have been working. I've got my little container here that I sift some soil in so I can have some finer soil. And I've been working here. And then, of course, I work on my table as well. So that's what's going on the deck. But as far as plants, I still have plants. I still have greens. I still have lettuce. I even have beans coming up. And the malabar spinach, that never died completely away. I've got a lot of malabar spinach seeds back here among with the lettuce. See, this is beautiful. The lettuce keeps coming up. Parsley. So I've had parsley and all that all year. So it works out perfect. Like if I decide I want to make a pizza, I just come out here and I grab the herbs I need to make my pizza crust. Like purple basil. And then I've got my tricolored sage. I've got parsley. You saw on the other side, I've got thyme. So I've got everything here except for rosemary. And I think I am going to put a rosemary bush up here. Because so many times Gary said, oh, let's make a pizza. And it was so late. And then he'd have to go out in the garden and go get rosemary. So I might as well have a rosemary on the deck as well. Now the other things I've left here is I've left some sow thistle. See all the seed heads? I leave that for the birds and they come, and the little goldfinches and even different sparrows and house finches come and they'll pick at it. So weeds I've left since I'm not really gardening up here, just kind of maintaining what's already here. I leave a lot of these seeds for the birds so they can come down, which they do, and feed right here on the deck on the seeds, because it's going to be hard for them to find a lot of food too. And of course, we feed the hummingbirds all over the deck. But that's what's going on, and I'm not abandoning my deck. But I am going to do some changes for the better, for the plants and for the microbes and for the earthworms. I don't want the earthworms to have to try to get up there. I want to be able to make it easy for them so they can just go in and out and gravitate that way, and it will be easier that way. And I could compost in place in the small containers if I want. There's a lot of things I can do. So we're going to straighten out the deck within the next month or two, and I can't believe these tomatoes are fantastic. I want to get a lot of these going. These have just been just great. I think these are San Marzano, and I could be pronouncing it wrong, but boy, they just keep going and going. I like them because if I'm making a pizza or enchilada or lasagna or anything, these slice so beautiful. A little bit on the dry side. In other words, you're not going to get a real juicy tomato, but it's beautiful for cooking. And do not kid yourself. I eat it too. And then the brads, I only grew a few, so I probably will grow some this year again. They were great, and we just kind of had so many tomatoes, we didn't pick them all. They started to dry out, so they're going to fall, and they're going to be growing, and they won't grow brads. They won't grow true, because that is a designer seed. But I'll get something, but I like the midnight snacks. They tend to grow almost true. So they've been an amazing plant. So that's it for the deck. I think it's going to be fun working on the deck and getting it set up and see how I can make it more efficient for me and probably even less watering if I layer the pots and not raise the pots up like I did. So I hope I've given you some ideas, but at least I've given you a touch on what's going on the deck. And if you've got a deck, I'm going to say the best thing you can do is get a chair, get some containers. That's all you need. And it's beautiful. I love my chairs. Here, Gary found some tables. These tables on the bottom that are holding it up, he found that in the trash. So we put the containers here. But a chair is beautiful. And if you've got some tables, nice sturdy tables that you don't want, you're going to donate them or something, you can actually make a really nice garden on a table. So with that, have a great day. And don't forget to eat what you grow. Bye-bye.